Okay, I just want to put a little piece of truth in here for you. In English, truth and freedom carry across. Oh. Okay, I'm back again, and I want to go into a little more details on the three parts of the presentation that I've been doing. Now, I kind of want to cap it off, and we're talking about commerce and having to go back and your ABCs, the letter of the law, not the color of law. So I just want to go back and show everybody what they're used to looking at and how everybody's been explaining this again. You know, the pyramids, using pyramids. So this is the, usually the pyramids are completed in most people's presentations when they're doing anything on the Illuminati, secret societies, how we're being controlled in the world. Now, this is called a trapezoid, and that's exactly what it is. You know, you're being held in contempt of court because you've gone into court and you've gone into contempt because you spoke on the guilty not guilty plea. You had to make a willful act of perjury to plead not guilty. And this little piece up here, it's called a frustum, and that's where everybody's being frustrated because we can't communicate properly anymore because of the line. And they have to tell you, you hide the truth with the truth. There's that gap between us, and this is the way it really works. You see, we're all here, and we're dealing with down here. And again, money, religion, and politics. And I went through in part one how religious teachings in a book is religion, and you can't, I won't insult your intelligence by reading out loud. Karl Rotzhammer, the man acting as Pope Benedict XVI, is de jure, in fact, the only person in the world that can read the Bible, because he doesn't have to leave court to go to the library. So the Tri-City State, again, London, the Vatican, and Washington. And how hiding the truth with the truth, the third degree. People have probably heard that term before. You have to be told 3 times. That's not really right. It's like you make 3 points. Point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. You're writing. There's a difference. So signs and symbolism, and everybody looking at signs and symbols that you see all over the place, and they're kind of a distraction about what signs, about writing, what signs and symbols and reading. So I'll just show you how I've set this up. And you have a semicolon, colon. Now, when you're writing, you send the documents off now. Read. Then it goes up. Read. Silently. Read out loud. That's been read. Then it goes back. Verified. Read. It gets to Washington. Period. End of sentence. And nothing to be said after that. It's been read. And it's called a writ. Because you want to balance the scales about, you write. At first you write. And then when you're finished, it's a writ. It has to be read. It's done. has to be addressed. Balancing the scales of justice again. You know, in the zero balance, we had A, B, C, A, D, B, C, and A, D. We're looking for, you know, before commerce. So you want to stay in honor in admiralty. So when you're going into court now to strike pleadings and scales of justice, again, you have a choice. You can speak. Or write. Those are your two choices, speaking and writing. And if you're going into court to administrate your affairs, you want to beat your adversary to court. And there's all different ways of doing this. You know, you can think for yourself. So when they call out your name, it's an honor and a privilege to speak in court. So get it on the record first. So they call out your name and you say, Ian Rob Forgy speaking, Your Honor, and I'm here to administrate my affairs and get closure on this matter. And that's exactly what you're doing. You know, you go in, you get your documents in order, case closed, boom. And anybody that's in court, when they hear it, you know, they don't know whether you know, how many times you've been in court before you've got to this point. You know, it's like we're all entitled to administrate our own affairs. So that means you're the only one responsible. And that's how, you know, give credit where credit is due. And, you know, somebody went and did a lot of research for whatever reason it was. You know, I went back and, you know, I've checked, I listened to it, and then fall into the trap of their past about, you know, because you were part of it and you can't remember about that aspect, about when you're dealing with somebody in the military, you know, what 3 up, 3 down really means. You know, in the first part, I went through section 132 of the criminal code. Perjury is a 14-year prison sentence. That's for speaking. And 137, manufacturing evidence to be used in a judicial hearing, and that's for writing. And section 139, obstruction of justice. You know, that's 38 years. You know, so you get the 3rd degree, you take 3 out, you know, minus, you get 35 years worth of majesty service. 3 up, 3 down. Last name first, speaking. End of sentence. And you want to go back and verify, is that really true? So the emergency lights come on. An actor is somebody whose question is in conduct. So somebody in a costume carrying a gun comes up and asks you for your driver's license, registration, and insurance. They're in contempt of court. They're speaking. They're a natural person with the benefit privileges of an artificial person who can sue or be sued. They have a right to speak to an attorney. Everything they say can and will be held against you in a court of law. So when you get to court, the prosecutor's reading. It's hearsay evidence, inadmissible, immaterial, irrelevant. Stool pigeon. What is a stool pigeon? You know, how did the prosecutor know? You know, how they twist things around. You know, keeping secrets is a cardinal sin. And they insult your intelligence to that degree when you know, they have some excuse. They're not your father, they're not your mother, they're not your sisters, they're not your brothers. And yet they keep insisting that you call them mother, father, sister, brother. And it insults people's intelligence. And we get caught in this cartoon world because they use the truth about forgiveness. So they take an oath of poverty, an oath of celibacy, and keep it secret about the benefits and privileges of slavery. As long as you enrich the master's wealth, you get a little better house. You enrich the master's wealth enough, you can get a little better car. You enrich the master's wealth enough, you can hire a chauffeur to drive your car. You can hire somebody to clean your house. You can hire somebody to answer your phone answer your door when somebody comes to the door. And you can hire somebody to dress you. They have dressers. And you can't do anything for yourself. You're a slave of your own ignorance. You can't do anything for yourself. You have to have somebody else do it for you. Because you're a star. And you get trapped because you can't go in public. Because everybody wants to meet a star. And you can't remember your friends. You know, you want to talk to your friends. They don't want to talk to you anymore. So that's something everybody has to look at. You know, it's about forgiveness. You know, everybody wants out of this. You know, people get trapped, and when they find out, you know, it's hard to give up the, you know, the creature comforts of slavery. Except the fact that we have to realize who's the slaves in this world. You know, they're employees of the federal government or servants of the sovereign people, the Republic of the United States. That was Alexander Hamilton that said that. So we have to kind of go back and check, you know, double check our facts. Don't believe me. You know, you have to go back and double check facts. Now, I wanted to go back and show a couple things that I didn't show before. There's the back, it's called the back page. And I'll just grab this here. When you're doing an affidavit for court, they want a back page. So this is what the back page will look like. And so you can leave these areas blank, so you can fill in court docket numbers. Again, italicized, and then the different acts brought under, and then the lines, affidavit. Now, I was going to go and show you what I based this petition on a court case from Missouri. And here it is. The act of the legislature authorized the plaintiff to sue by this proceedings for a debt technically so called. So, for anything which must be otherwise be sued for in a case of a sumsit, if a thing is to be sued for in debt, we see no reason why the writ should not be in debt. If the injury live in a sumsit, in the case the court concludes that the form of writ best applied to the nature of the complaint might well have been observed in an action of a sumsit, might well have been brought on the promissory note here used, sued on by summons and petition. And that's really what I had done. I wrote the Supreme Court of the United States. I sent a copy to the Library of Congress, knowing how all this works. And then they sent me back the document stamp received in the Supreme Court, but I had to be heard in, they say it was the state Supreme Court or the appeals court first. So then I continued on. I wrote a appeal and then a petition and sent it to the Library of Congress. And then I dealt with the federal government and the provincial government. I wrote a peace treaty. Then I went and wrote the petition, went to court. I dealt with that part, and then I did my first acquiescence. It was when I went back where I was living, and I sent it to the a court case that the Aboriginal people had filed. It had gone to the Supreme Court. It's been reviewed by Parliament, and I agreed with everything. I agreed with their position when they went into court. I agree with the position that they're taking now, and I just, you know, an alliance. And then I wrote a writ a couple of months ago, and that was the first two parts that I was doing. In the beginning, confirmation of the liberties in the Magna Carta, 1297, Chapter 925, Edward I, CC 1929. First, we have granted to, I won't read it, I'm not going to take the name of the Lord in vain, so. The Grant Church of England, it's freedom. Now, the Church of England was built by slaves. Didn't cost anybody any money to build the Church of England. And to the City of London, the corporation, we grant all its ancient laws and customs. And it's a corporation, a corpse. And how inside the corpse is what we're trying to deal with. And that's the frustration, the frustum that I was showing you earlier about where everybody is inside the trapezoid. And you need to look at outside the trapezoid and think outside the trapezoid. How did you get trapped? You ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You said you could read, and that was a lie. You have to write before you can read. When you're going into court, they have court rules. And the rules of court, and then there's rules of parliament. I wrote the Speaker of the Canadian Parliament there to attend the House, unclothed, unattended in the usual fashion. You kind of got to know, what does that really mean? But that's what the rules say. There's a book in Parliament. And all there are is names. It's the names of all the men that were sacrificed in all the conflicts overseas. And every day they turn a page, one page. And these idiots, that book, they have to read that book every day about whose decision, how did those names get in the book. That's why the book's in Parliament, to make sure these politicians, these federal elected officials, no, they all capital dead man. They died for our freedom. They gave us our freedom. They gave their lives for our freedom, not their lives. Not for them, for us. Now we got to take the gift that was given to us, our birthright. We have to go back and get our birthright. I'll go back here. I used Edward Coke in his writings. So I just want to read from the fifth part of the reports of Sir Edward Coke, Knight. It is truly said that error doth proceeding so indefinitely multiply herself, produceth such monstrous and strange chimeras, floateth in so many uncertainties, and sucketh down the poison from contagious breath of ignorance, as such into whom she infuses any of her poisoned breath. She dangerously infects or intoxicates that which is wonderful. Before she can come to any end, she brings all things by conclusion to a miserable and untimely end. On the other side, truth cannot be supported or defended but anything but truth herself, and it is of that condition and consistency as she cannot at any time or any part or point be disagreeable to herself. She hath all the bombasting and sophistication, and bringeth with her uncertainty, unity, simplicity, and peace at last. Ignorance is so far from excusing or extenuating the error of him that had the power to find the truth, and want only will to seek it, as she will be in just cause of his great punishment. Error and falsehood are that condition. As with any resistance, they will in time of themselves fade away and fall away. But such is the state of truth, that though many do impugn her, she will, and yet she of herself will prevail in the end, and flourish like the palm tree. She may peradventure by force for a time be trodden down, but never by any means whatsoever can she be trodden out. There is no subject of the realm, but being truly instructed by good and plain evidence of the ancient and undoubtedly patrimony and birthright, but will consult with learned and faithful counselors for the recovery of the same. The ancient and excellent laws of England are the birthright, and the most ancient and best inheritance that the subjects of the realm have, for by them he enjoyeth not only his inheritance and goods in peace and quietness, but for his life and his most dear country in safety. And for that I fear that many of my dear countrymen, for want of understanding of their own evidence, do not want the true knowledge of their ancient birthright, in some points the greatest importance. I have in the beginning of my 5th work directed them to those who will not only faithfully counsel and fully resolve herein, but also establish and settle them in quiet and lawful possession, upon the grounds to rectify an error in man's own mind, his work of a clear understanding and reformed will, and the frequent with such as to be good men and have sober and settled wits. And I also went into the first parts of the institutions, the laws in England, or a commentary upon Littleton. Excuse me here. Nota. The original writs are the foundation of the law, as it appears here by Littleton, are the greatest authority and proof of the law in a particular case. Writs of right. Writs of right are to be of 2 natures. 1. A writ of right, wherein Littleton here speaketh, which is the highest writ of all others we call writs whatsoever, and hath the greatest respect, and most assuredly and final judgment, and therefore this writ is called a writ of right, and it is an old book called pardon me. And this writ, and the jury of these writs, is called the Magna Asia, or Magna Juratura, as Littleton here saith. Writs of right in their nature reasonabile parte and negisti vexis. You'll have to excuse my Latin. I can read it, but I can't pronounce it. A writ of right cannot die, for such is a high esteem of the writ in the eye of the law, that the law preserveth from death and destruction. Trotteth down it may be, but never trotteth out. It is a principle in law, from which many cases have their origin, all or beginning, which is so strong that it sufficeth no contradiction. Therefore it is said in our books that the ancient principles of law ought to be not disrupted. And hereby it is appeared that it is not safe for any man to be of counsel with himself in his own case, but to take advice from other and learned men. I will not presume here to observe the modesty and mildness of our author, which is worthy of imitation. And herewithin our author followed the examples of Moses, who was a judge and the first writer of the law, for he was as holy history testify of him. The arguments and the reason of the law, for them are we said to know the law when we apprehend the reason of the law, that is, when we bring the reason of the law so to our own reason, that we perfect and understand it as our own. And then and never before have we such an excellent and inseparable property and ownership herein, and we neither lose nor man take it from us, and we will direct us in many other cases. But if it by your study and industry you make not reason of the law your own, it is possible for you to long retain it in your own memory. Knowing for certainty that the law is knowing him who that knoweth not the reason therefore is knowing certainty of the law is the safest of all. I had once intended for the ease of our student to have made tables for these institutes, But when I consider that tables and abridgments are more profitable to those who make them, I have left the work to every studious reader, and for farewell to our jurisprudence, the loveliness and temperaments, stability and fortitude, and the solitude of justice. And that's Sir Edward Coke. And those are sound counsel. This is what he's talking about. So I had to tab everything up, table of rights. I made the first two declarations. In part 3, further particulars and neglect of the servants of the crown include, but are not limited to the following. And I go on for a number of pages. I'll read that a little later. This is for and on the record. So I'm gonna kind of leave it here, and I'll do another segment right now. Okay, I'd like to go back one more time and go over the ABCs and the difference between Middle English and Modern English. In Middle English, you, up here, you is you, and a U is a V, and you have a double U. And then in Modern English, when you're speaking as a person, you get the double, what a double U means. And in the first part, it went how a double U, when you get two persons together, there's no authority. There's no authority in a double U. There's no we. No, that's just two U's. And they tell you the truth. You're a ewe, which is a sheep. Sheeps get fleeced by the good shepherd. And that's not, how they twist what the words really mean, because it's, take care of my children. And that's a problem when you're trying to talk to somebody, especially when it comes to domestic problems, family law. Children aren't property, and parents going, that's my child, and it's over. No. See, children are born free, and then you get a choice when you're 18, and how, the magic word, everybody gets up in front of their friends and says the magic word, obey, and how slowly, after high school, as couples get married, and they separate from their single friends. You can't talk to your friends anymore. You're married, you got responsibilities, and how we get conned, because that's the trap that our parents got in. You'll figure that out when you get older, and then you get married, and it's like now you can have the that father-son discussion that you had. You'll figure this out when you get older. Now you're older and you're a married man, you want the conversation, and it's like, talk to your father-in-law. What? I married your mother. I do what I told. We got to stop that. We're all equal. Equality, like I said, give credit where credit is due. Equality before and under the law is paramount and fundamental and paramount. Absolutely. If you go in the first videos, I'm a little harsh on a certain individual that I talked to, and it's partly because you're right. And you join the military, and smoke and mirrors. Yeah, you gotta remember, who you didn't remember who you were really talking to, and and it's about forgiveness. I don't mind, and I have no objections to speaking to this individual. I just, it's not court. I have a problem about people's conduct in court. I go on the internet and I just, they say, oh no, I've researched. What? Yeah, you're being nailed. people going into court, disrupting the courts like you're doing. Like when you go back to try to deal with it, it's contempt. You don't want to talk to me. Why? You don't want to talk to me. Don't talk to me. If you're a judge, you're sitting there like it that fast. That's what the not guilty plea like that. It's over. And try to go back. But we have to. Like I've been speaking in court for 38 years, and I don't understand the not guilty plea. I never have. It's hard to explain to people. That was my decision. It's not a problem. The out of court's the problem. I can't deal with corpse and zombies anymore. As we were going through the ABCs earlier, you get, X marks the spot, Y, Q, you got a right. And then if you're not, you're a zombie, and you're dealing with zombies. And how we gotta get life, write your name in the book of life, right? DBA is doing business as, the all capital dead man talking, at a distance, corpses, zero balanced where it needs to be zero balanced. First shall be last, and last shall be first. Should have wrote first, now you're last. You have to zero balance everybody's accounts for them first. And you come back, and then you'll be the last. It's just the way it works. There's not a problem as long as we all agree that the funds being held in court belong to us. The will of mankind is, the common law is the will of mankind issuing from the life of the people. That's from the United States Justice Department. Quotes, where people getting quotes. When I started, I wrote a judicial protection order. I went, where people look, where do you want your remedy? Sometimes you got to look in the places that you don't want to look. Check out what in the United States Code on high treason, signing documents in Indian territory. They give you full faith and credit because you double checked about what signing documents in Indian territory really mean. And state rights versus federal rights, and how you have to go back and check. There was a court case at the beginning of the Civil War, want to put a stop to the killing, and the judge wrote a habeas corpus, bring the body into court. What? No, bring the body into court. We want to put a stop to this before it gets out of control here. Everybody ignored what the judge had to say. Now you got to kill for 5 years, and then all of a sudden you have to find a reason to justify all the killing. A new birth of freedom. Being born again in the kingdom. There's talk on the internet on a divorce case in Alberta. As soon as you're a divorced man with 6 children, you got to face the fact. As soon as you plead guilty, like it's over. You forget about your house, your car, you forget about everything. You get to be born again in the kingdom. You get to walk out of court in your birthday suit holding some real crown jewels, a real free man. Everybody can see. Got to put clothes on, up here. We're an image. We were created in an image. And it's just an image. You can't write. Writing in 3 dimensions. We live in a, writing is a 2-dimensional world. It's amazing what you can put in 2 dimensions to create a novel. Is a novel way of writing. You get to create a world and control all the facets of your story and bring it all together and create your world. But it's fiction, and it's a novelty. And it's novel writing, but it's not writing. Not in that respect. It's not what we all have to agree. They're not my words. We have to all agree what the law says. Because at the legislature, the law says this. So we need to write. So we all agree. The Law and Equity Act in British Columbia, the Law and Equity Act, on the grounds of the Law and Equity Act, Section 2.3, you bring in the Magna Carta. That's where we get our freedom. And the all capital authority. The authorities or who can write the law properly. You know, and if you agree, if you want agreement with the judge that we all agree about the law, so we're all on the same page. It's like boom, boom, boom. Three people agreeing, not persons. Three men, women, but they're people, not persons. And we need to take a little bit more time and think about proper way of speaking. People, person out of it. It's a horrible word. I hate it now. I hate the word person. It's dealing with a corpse and a corpse. When you check the definitions, when a man ceases to be a living being, it's a corpse. And then you can't call a corpse a person yet. That's what they do in law, in commerce. These zombies, although they're the living dead, I guess is the best way to put it. And, now it's reality television. It's the way of the world now. It's a big hit. Everybody in Vancouver, you walk around and everybody was painted up as zombies, and everybody, how great. I was like, oh, keep me away from. I have to. I've had a couple of reporters try to interview me, and it's like, get a court order. I don't care, about what freedom of speech means. You get a newspaper reporter, like, they want to, I'll tell you, no. You get a court order first. Security guards, I was in the library, somebody stole a bunch of hard drives, I guess. I don't know. That's what the story I heard. And they were searching bags, and it's now you get a court order and you get a search warrant, period. I don't care. In the library's not responsible, lost a stolen article, so they hire a security firm. And that's so, if you have to go to the washroom, you can ask a security guard to watch your stuff, but no. You try to point this out to them, and no. They're the authority. No, they're a rent. Everybody knows they call them rent-a-pigs. They can go in, so you can be sued. And on the level of thing, SkyTrain police, they're not an authority. Absolutely no authority. Not when you go back, 3 up, 3 down. No, last name first speaking. And you get to stand at attention after this. Are you a police officer or a law enforcement officer? You want to know what the answer is. You ask the judge, they're not the sheriff. You check the rules of court. And the peace officer is a sheriff in the province of British Columbia. The peace officer is the sheriff. And how do you know? Because he never bothers anybody until after. They take somebody from court to the kingdom of Id. And that's it. You don't have to deal with the sheriff. And when police officers are coming into the courthouse and walk around security and walk into court with a gun, it gets a little hard for everybody to come into court and deal with things. When police officers have guns and the judge is up there, it's we have to disarm the opponent, our opposition, before we get to court. You turn your guns in to the sheriff, and if everything goes okay, you can get your gun back when you leave. But you pick up a gun, I want to know what you're doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this idea that people, the police can burn a tank of gas a day driving around getting everybody to pay tribute, these days are over. The 2%, we got to raise the level of contempt another 2% or 5%. I don't know what the mayor's talking about, but the mayor gets to talk to all the chairs in the city of Vancouver, find out why, why do they lock a washroom when you go in? It's for customer use only, and they gotta, you gotta punch in a security code to go. What are you gonna steal in the bathroom? I know, because they don't care. That's why they lock washrooms, to frustrate everybody. That frustum, that the bottom. When you're at the bottom, you got to frustrate everybody so we can't, see that what's really going on, that they're there to do our bidding. They're not there to tell anybody what to do. They're there to zero balance the numbers, make sure these accounts zero balance. Coast Mountain Transit is not an authority on anything except being stupid. I mean, they put clowns, their finest idiots, so everybody can see who they're, police won't listen to us. They're out, you got to stop thinking. The police are out there dealing with us because, the people they listen to, how it filters down. They don't find out till it's too late, and all of a sudden they're keeping their secrets because they're all, they get into Masonry. We got to put a stop to Freemasonry. It's the ancient Babylonian mystic religions. The craft. Magic's really casts a spell with words. They're not allowed to speak. No, I'm reading. Good for you, little boy. I can read too. Don't insult don't insult people's intelligence by reading out loud. When you're acting at work, and read. Anyway, back to the ABCs again. Schools, the break's coming up. You gotta stop and think about forgiveness here. There was a horrible tragedy. I don't know what to say about it. It's just nothing but victims. Domestic breakup, and we can't, that it can't be used as an excuse anymore. If two couples can't get along together anymore, we can't be, you gotta think about the children's well-being. They have two parents. You can't have the parents saying, no, you gotta hate this one or hate this one. This one, we're all equal. Get a new house. Children get to, children have a home. They can stay. One leaves, one stays. Parents can come and visit the house where the children are. Just getting a divorce, you get an apartment. The first thing, when you file a divorce payment, there's an apartment gets put. You find an apartment. Who's getting the apartment? I don't know. That kind of worked that out later. The children get the home, but somebody gets an apartment, and you can try sharing an apartment. You live together for 15 years, 20 years. Surely you can share an apartment. Go back and forth for a little bit. But we have to stop. It's over. I was saying on my second video on time, it's only the end of the ages, just the end of the week here. It's rapidly coming to a close. We can't take it anymore. It's over. I was talking about a court case where I'm from. It's somebody's 15 years, from 1984 to 1997. That's how long it takes to get a course to the Supreme Court. I made a deal with a little boy, and his mother was there, and his aunt, and his little sister, and I was like, oh, it takes time. I was like, okay, not a problem. I figured, I really thought the people I worked with would kind of catch on really fast. I started, I multitask. I do all kinds of things at the same time. Start a conversation, I'm working with 5 people, start 3 conversations in the morning, and every time I, get a couple of minutes together, I just continue on, and I got 3 different conversations going. They're like, yeah, so can't you do it? Why not? I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time. I can talk to 2 people at the same time, about different things. It's like, how are they going to be taking this, and I can't tell people what to do. I have to find another way to communicate, and it's not easy, especially because I can't go there. You start pushing the wrong buttons, especially like I stayed out of organizations. I don't attend religious services, and I don't join groups, corporations, in a social setting. It's and then, but when that comes, when the reasons come out, it's like I have to go. That's not what the law says. I'm tired of. Why do I have to be the one to leave? And I know the police have a job to do. They're there to protect everybody, and I know the RCMP actually have to do their jobs. And sometimes the easiest way for them to do their jobs is to convince me that it's in everybody's best interest if I go. So I go. And they have to deal with the fact I'm not there. I can't go back. It's the way it's always been. I can't, get run off a job. I can't go back and get it. Doesn't matter whether I'm entitled to the job. Can't go back and deal with the people. And it's like, you fire everybody and I'll come back. And they're called letters of resignation. And that's the next step we're going to. It's like, no, you get in a position of authority. It means you have already wrote your letter of resignation. You write it first. And if you're writing it after the fact, it's not, you're being fired with prejudice, because now you have to write it. You don't care anymore. No, right? There was a 22-year-old man held a beer for his friend, and with malice and forethought, an RCMP officer took him back to the police station. Went into an interview room, and he was found dead with a bullet in the back of his head. It's called a letter of resignation. You can always try to get your job back. The Danskin inquiry about what happened in the airport in Vancouver, you get 4 letters of resignation before anybody says anything. You have to stop. Everybody's got a job description inside the Vancouver Police Department. When you go to their website, they have 2 spokespersons. That's past tense. They've already spoke. They can't speak. They're not. It's spoke. Step out in front of the camera. They've already spoken, so there's no point in continuing on. They're just there to, I don't know, whatever they're there to do. They talk to corpses. That's their job, is to deal with corporations. So that means they need to have a little heart-to-heart with the presidents of all the corporations in Vancouver about who pays and who doesn't pay. We have to zero balance these accounts, and you're past due on these things, and the police have got a job to do, and they're there to make sure that the management does their jobs, and that we live in peace. And then they become peace officers. Why? Because they're talking to the right people. We live in peace. They're not. You have to look at, they can't. It's how they have to do their jobs. They don't know who's who. The only way they know is when you get to court, and then it's like, yeah, okay, now you know. We have to allow them to, once they start knowing who's who, like Crime Stoppers. Pick up the phone, teach somebody a lesson. You got the police, and it's like the police have to be able to go back. You made this call. Why? That's what the problem is. Why are you getting the police involved in somebody's life? Who's doing it? When somebody has a stack of ticket books and says you got to fill it out, and it's like, oh, okay, I got to fill it out. Then you find out who told you to make me do this, and then you go on, and then you find, okay, now I have to fill these out. What? And then start filling them out. We got to zero balance the accounts. That's how we start looking at, the 3 copies of a bill. You get the middle copy. You got to put it all back together. And try to get all, once these papers disappear, try to get them back together again. I mean, I have original papers in the Supreme Court of the United States. That's the whole point. Somebody has to go into the Supreme Court and pick them up, take them back to the Library of Congress. That was the whole point of the exercise. I don't want money. I just want somebody to go into the Supreme Court and pick up some paperwork. It's like all these papers went flying and somebody went running out of court. That's okay. It's not like the first time somebody freaked out when I was in court. They had a law degree. I mean, promissory note, $200. I paid my $200. It was already paid, prepaid. It's how it really works. They write a promissory note for the prosecutor of the United States to go into the Supreme Court. And his client's the President of the United States. He can't speak. He can't go into court. I mean, if you got to stop and think that George Bush is a member of Skull and Bones, and he'll be executed in how many states for contempt of court? The President of the United States going to the Supreme Court of the United States to speak. No, they'll have him executed, and he'll be just a skull and 2 crossbones. And that's not a joke. I mean, they tried to put a stop to this. Nobody listens to judges, and it's like, these are the threats. They kind of have to, like I said, you have to try to find another way to communicate. So they put up a 110-foot granite monument in Georgia, the Georgia Guidestones. Reduce the Earth's population to 500 million. And what are they really talking about? Is it corporations? Does it keep, we only need 500 million people working. The rest of us can enjoy life. It's about time we thought about, we're here to enjoy our life. We're not here to service corporations anymore. Slavery. We enslave. We're going to enslave the corporations. They're going to do what they're told. They're just corpses. They haven't got no say in the matter anymore. It's not personal. I don't. After you leave work and you cross that line, you get the same benefits that the rest of us do. When you go up to the counter, you can be a customer. It's just because you're the president of a company, they treat you how you're supposed to be treated. It's because you're the president. They want to impress you, but it's like, you got to go down there and tell them that you have to treat everybody like this, not me. When you're in the company, when you go down, everybody's, no, you treat everybody else like that. Because I want that treatment from other companies. When I go in there, no, I have to slither under the door. I have to get my butler to do my shopping for me. And we got to stop being greedy. Go back. The Aboriginal people we're their guests. We need to let them do what they want to do. It's not your decision. You can't give them anything except their freedom back. Reserves and reservations on grand juries. That's what it really means. It's not a little piece of land. They can go where they want. They can go hunting, fishing, whenever they want. That's the way it's supposed to be. You can't suddenly go, it's a process. When you get there, it's fine. Like when you do get there, because it's not easy. I have an acquaintance, a friend I met a number of years ago, 3-4 years ago. And I told him something. And it's just like you get hit by a truck. And he's still struggling. He's been in court for 4 years trying to deal with fact that he was involved in corporate affairs, and things kind of started to go haywire, and how you got to deal with it, and it's a nightmare. And then, like, you know, you get hit with it. And I have something here. I took him up to the 3rd floor of the library and read what read means. And it was like you get like hit with a truck. You know, read, read. And it's not easy. That's what it means. You know, all these books, you haven't read them. And the law, you got to read the law first. And then, did you get that? And then show them a factual copy of the 1560 Geneva Bible and go, that's how you, it's the banned Bible. That's why it's banned, because it's got headers and footers, and, you know, put the argument up first. What? You can't argue about it anymore. It's great. You know, you want these people to come knocking on your door to save your soul. It's like, oh, can you read? Oh, good. What? I got a Bible. You know, you get a factual copy of the King James Bible, and Jehovah's Witnesses won't be coming around, or, as I like to call the people of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they're the fastest growing religion in North America, and they're morons. Somebody took the Book of Mormon into a Texas court and got 130 years because of who Joseph Smith really was. He had a record. He was a flim-flam man, and a good one. Freemason, 32-degree Freemason, Brigham Young and Joseph Smith. That's 64 degrees of stupidity. You put your head in a hat with a magic rock, and you can translate a language that nobody's ever seen, golden tablets nobody's ever seen. No, somebody's... There you go. You're seeing stars. You're a star. That's how they get them on their shoulders. You know, you kill thousands. You know, they give you a star, put it on your shoulder, cartoon character, you know. You know, when you're reading the cartoons, they got the little captions so you can read thoughts. Because you can't read minds, you know, so in order to portray that in a cartoon, you got, so yeah, you got to stop and think under, like, Canada for greater certainty in the Interpretation Act is the inland seas and territorial waters, so you're underwater, and you got to have bubbles, you know. In talking to the Prime Minister, you got to visualize the bubbles, you know, what they really need, you know. You know, you got to start a day out with a nice wholesome breakfast, you know, bowl full of jalapenos or habaneros and a nice soapy enema. Let's see what happens, you know. Coming right out of their faces, all right. And if you go back to biblical teachings, you know, you got to stop, you know, that's, you know, how you have it, you know, oh no, Daniel said it this way, and you have the revealing this way, and you kind of put it together, and you go like, okay, you know, find another way, and it's, for me, it's asshole, shitty butts, and bullshit, you know, dealing like the little horn and the big horn. You know, what's the little horn? You know, it's like, you know, you got, man, human rights. You know, you get a choice, you can right or right. You got the scales of justice, you know, right or right. You know, which way do you want to go? So, you know, you got to correct your spelling. So, you know, did you come up with human? No, okay, but H, okay. Now you got to correct your spelling now. After commerce, right? Before commerce, after commerce. You know, so spelling. What are the rules of spelling? I before E, except after C. Okay, so you got I. Okay, you got the, Rhett went back and double checked about where are the rules, where we had to read the rules, so you go, all right, so, you know, everybody's reaction, you know, huh? Oh, yeah, you got it, right? You ID'd the problem. You got a hemorrhoid. You know, however you want to do it, you know, it's like, that's what they are. There's, you know, if you're in Europe, the European Union. The city of London did business all over Europe. That's how, it was all done in Latin. Everybody, they separated the languages, and the Norman conquest. You go back before the Norman conquest, the Anglos and the Saxons. Who was there first? You got this island, and you got these peaceful people living there, and they've been invaded, and they bring the law with them. What? I can read, because they can read. See, the big secret about slavery is a slave can read, because they wrote it. That was the whole deal. Right? You want to be a slave, you put it in writing. That way, there's no argument about about being a slave. And then they keep it secret. No, they can read all right. It's like when you're dealing with people that are illiterate children, and a person is a child of unsound mind, because you can read, and that's the problem. It's a fiction. You're like I said, it's the job description. It's not you. You put your name in there, but you have to take responsibility, and that's your letter of resignation. 4 copies. You just set it up. You can use the post office. You put a post office stamp in. It's effective date. That it's stamped. Then you can put other conditions. You got to get proper copies, and when somebody else can go to the post office and stamp it under, if the conditions warrant, you got to resign. We take responsibility, and read about enrolling our children in school. I don't have to. As far as I don't have children. I'm not married. Never been married. That doesn't mean that wasn't the problem. I'm gonna be a father. Okay, I'm child's father. But I don't. That's not. I can't go that that's a justification for having to get married. It's nobody's business. It's not my choice. It's like, I'm not celibate or anything. It's, I like women. As long as we agree, it's her decision. I'm not. That becomes an issue about, women's rights. You got to stop and face reality about women's rights. It's called the equal suffrage movement. So you get no rights. You get the benefits and privileges of slavery. That's what Eve wanted. Didn't realize what it meant. The serpent knew. Absolutely. It's his idea. And there's been a curse on mankind ever since. You have to stop, think. It's going to take thousands of years till you figured out what reading means. About everybody and read. The writing's over. Now it's read. All the legislation we need is read. Read it. We don't need to write any more bills. We've got all the bills we need now. We need to go back and balance the accounts through the Bankruptcy Insolvency Act. We're just bankrupt, that's all. All the money that belongs to all of us as soon as we lay claim properly, lay a proper claim, discharging the contempt, giving credit to the people who were willing, they willingly gave their lives for freedom. They deserve that. You know, we have to be free first, and then you can thank them for the freedom by putting a stop to the killing. As long as the killings continue, there's no forgiveness. It's having your picture on the mantelpiece doesn't do you any good. It just leads to more tragedies like the one that recently happened. It's like just children. I know how hard, I went, like going into a classroom of, grade ones and speaking to them. I can really appreciate, I was talking to one child, was telling you, a lot of things in my life. The reaction I got from that little boy, he just stood up and it was like, I'll bow to no man. Just a child. How you doing? But you can't approach a child. You need permission from the parents. His mother had a right to know who I was and I have a record. I won't get into why, the other aspects of my life. I have family that won't talk to me because I put things in writing, and I won't do what I'm told. And suddenly, the blank check, and it just doesn't work that way. Life insurance is a big scam. There's no guarantee. It can be great after you're gone. You don't nobody gets a benefit out of their life insurance policy. It's the biggest crack of bullshit that ever came down the pipe, if you think about it. You pay $30, $40 a month or whatever. I don't know. I got nothing to do with it. Life insurance, and you get the big payout when you're dead. And it gets to the point where that's what everybody's waiting for, so you can cash in. Death and taxes. You don't pay your taxes till after you're dead. You want to go and check that part out. You check the Supreme Court rules. What an undertaking! It's an undertaking. They're balancing the books of a dead man. And they can't do it till after you're dead. After you stop arguing about it. Death, now taxes. Now we settle the accounts. So we gotta do it ahead of time. Be born again. They give you the all capital name so you can be born again. And it's actually when you have these two, and then you just have your regular name, right? The all capital name is dead man. The last name. And that's doing business as, again. But, keeping balance when you're going into court. So I'll stop here. Okay, so I want to kind of sum up what I've been doing for the last few videos about balancing the scales of justice. I'll try to draw it a little easier for everybody. And I have the zero balance. And then actually there's kind of a scale. has a, you have a tripod, whatever. And the scales, but keeping it balanced with words. You have before commerce. It's admiralty. So honor and dishonor. It's affidavits, double A. Because you have the criminal code and commerce balancing on the other side. And bankruptcy in the middle. Zero balance. And 80. Again, BC, before commerce, admiralty and discharge, affidavits. A's are the power words. Alibi, lie by. 3 up, 3 down. You gotta keep your head above water. Kind of hard for me to do. As I was mentioning earlier, tragedy that recently happened, it makes this extremely difficult. Like children, I've had to stay away from children my whole life. It's kind of, a person is a child of unsound mind. We're guilty for producing the tragedy. It was a high school student. So not responsible, isn't old enough to put it in writing yet. This is the consequences of years of being bombarded by corporations that they can, children, turn the television on and they're mesmerized by TV. When I was a child, my father retired when I was 8. I made a mistake. I said in the first videos, my father retired when I was 8. And I went to New Zealand. And we didn't have a television there. And I got used to, being outside. And it was a Maori area. It was quite, isolated for New Zealand. And when I came back a couple of years later, and I was at sea for a month, and something happened on the cruise ship. I saw a priest coming out of a shower just before my 10th birthday, and all the children were going to have lunch with the captain. So everybody was excited about it. It was my birthday, and there was a little girl that was her birthday too. And I liked her, and we played together all the time, and we were just 10, just children. And I saw a priest coming out of a shower with one of the little boys on the cruise ship, and it was just an innocent question, what's this father doing, in a shower with a little boy? And then, my younger brother almost died when he was a little boy, so I have a problem dealing with my mother. And not knowing what was going on. I'm used to taking responsibility for my actions. And nobody talked to me. And then when I got back here, I was never, my father moved around, we moved here, moved there. I was never actually anywhere long enough for anybody to legally issue my identification anyway. It took me 2.5 years to get my high school diploma. And, I was convicted under Part 16 of the Criminal Code, compelling the accused to testify in front of a justice. Kind of gets hard asking somebody to identify myself. I had to get a family member to do it so I could get a passport. had no problem traveling. It was when I came back. Hit the border, and it was like, came back. If you're free, as long as I can do whatever I want, as long as I don't come back. But anyway, when I was in high school, everybody used to, ask, in social studies, if the assassination of John F. Kennedy used to come up. Do you remember what you were doing? We're doing this, doing that. And then I'd say what I was doing, and everybody'd flip out because there was a time difference and a date difference, because the international date line and the time difference. Well, how I perceived the events, turned on a radio in the morning, and they announced that John F. Kennedy had just been assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. And, didn't really put that together for years. I was 9 years old, 8, 9 years old. And when I went back and started checking things, starting about, just after September 11th, it was like the final straw. That was it, no more. It was like, This is grass. So I went back and looked at some pictures. You can see, you can find a photograph of Lee Harvey Oswald's in front of the Texas Depository down on the corner when the limousine's turning the corner. And then he analyzed the Kruger film, found out it was doctored. And how they explain how they doctored it. If you look at the pictures, and they use engineering using light poles. They know how tall a light pole is. They know where the angle of the sun is, and they can measure the length of a shadow, and they can tell how tall somebody is. And you got these giants running towards John F. Kennedy. They're all 10 feet tall. That's how they analyzed it. That's all they did was analyze it. And then there's the moon landings. You got lights reflecting from all different kinds of directions, and there's no stars. They say you can't see the stars on the moon. I know. They paint the stars in the sky at night. I don't know. I don't know how NASA came up with that explanation, but we have to stop and think that it was on television. There's the Van Allen belt around the Earth. You got to get through it. You need 3 feet of lead in order to protect you from the radiation. It's like, no, we're trapped on this planet, or somebody's trapped on this planet. What happened? There's things in Genesis that everybody kind of like, and it's like, If it was put in writing, it was put in writing for a reason. And the way it was put in writing, because it's like, there's no point. There was no, if you stop and think, and if you go back into 1500 BC and try to explain to everybody the modern world, and reading and knowing what history, what's happened, what's going to happen, maybe you got to stop doing this. That how do you do it? And you end up, just the way they did it. You can't come up with anything better. It's like when I was going back and getting this all together, right. Like, whoa. It's like, you do the notice of understanding, claim a right. Just write it up. And go back and take out the 110 understandings. I don't want to repeat myself. You just listed it to start with. And go back and polish it up, and then I went and used legal maxims to write with. then after that, court cases became real easy. And then I couldn't write for myself. And it became it wasn't writer's block. It was, they say, come up, this is what I want to say, and it's like, somebody said it better. Like, mind your P's and Q's, quotes where you're getting your information. I can't say it better, so quoting. So, it was Rousseau, I think it is, the conspiracy. I mean, that's excellent. Pen is mightier than a sword. Those are great words. Make sure, I really, emphasize where I got that. And all I came out was a couple sentences. I don't know. I don't want money. Videos are free. But there's a price to be paid. I paid the price. I'm not worried about that. It's prepaid. It's free. There should be no Google ads. I clicked it off. I won't be bound by one-way contracts on the internet. So I just don't care. I don't know how much longer I can actually go on the internet anymore. I can't really do anything anymore. I can't deal with people. And I try to explain how I have to do. I don't want to be in Vancouver. Everybody's willing to help get some place I don't want to be, because they want me. They want to continue on with their stupidity, I guess is the best way to put it. But the answer is no. It's not your decision. Just summing up my life, basically. Taking everything I've ever wanted. You don't care, you just take it. Blame everybody. There's people that are free, and I have to kind of protect them. I don't talk about where I'm really, where I was from, because they're free. Tired of people I work with spitting in the face of free people, and figure that I have to keep it secret because everybody goes down, and this is what happens. The rotten apple. That's all it takes to know the whole barrel has to get thrown out. Just gotta stop and think about how we're gonna get out of the nightmare. There's gonna be winners and losers. But you gotta have a lose. You'll lose, but you win in the long. We can leave the institution of slavery. So we have to stop and think about that. On the institution of slavery, it's a voluntary institution. We get enslaved by our ignorance. If you go back, everything's based on biblical teachings, and you need to put some due diligence, diligent inquiry. I didn't get here. It wasn't an easy route. It's like, like I know about the Bible. Somebody told me to read the Bible. I was like, oh boy. Tree of knowledge of good and evil. I know, a person can't read. And got a copy of the Cordan Bible. I have accepted for value the Quran, the Geneva 1599 Geneva Bible. It's been recently translated into modern English and has headers and footers. That's why I accepted that. And there's other reasons. There's the respect of the people that translated it. And I have no problems with the King James Bible. I've accepted 2 of those for value, and I tied documents into Bibles. How to pronounce my names in a Bible, and tying 2 Bibles together when I was with Canadian Free Men on the Land. That's how we set it up. Writing from one Bible to another Bible, and then so we could separate ourselves, 2 different worlds. And the Cordan Bible, and in the Cordan Bible, they correct the names. It's free of blemishes of somebody in English translating Hebrew. Somebody who could speak Hebrew and translate it to English. A little better way to do it. And it's the land of Mizraim. It's more appropriate. And there's a Tyndale Bible. Which 70% of the modern Bibles are all based on Tyndale's translation. And the revealing, because of what it says, you have to stop and think, did he actually translate it absolutely properly? And it's not church, it's congregation. And if it's congregation, is it more sense to write people than a building? And you're talking about who the apostles were. You have the court of St. James and the court of St. Peter. Everybody forgets about the court of St. James. In the book of Acts, the Acts of the Apostles, they paid a price. I can appreciate what he did. I know how you get crucified in this world. That's what the problem was. Is that's what he set out knowing. And it's like you get closer to the end, and terrifying, knowing. They tried to stop me a couple of times. Don't care anymore. It's all documented. I'm not going to tell you. I wrote the Supreme Court of Canada for a passport application. The RCMP know who I am. The Edmonton City Police know who I am. They can deal with turning their backs. Everything's under protest and duress here. As soon as the police walk away, it's okay, now I can do what I want. Nobody's gonna nobody listen to you anymore. Police are just gophers. Don't care. They need documents. The idea that somebody tell a police officer what to do and they do it, and then we'll get the paperwork later. It's like, no, No paperwork, no do. You know, they got to have the paperwork ahead of time, and they got to get that judge's okie dokie, you know, before it's the easy way out. Because you get somebody that's, there's somebody behind, push, and the minute somebody, I can't take it anymore, it's like, yeah, now they got you. You know, they've been hounding you and bullying you. It's like, where's the real bullies? Yeah, in the schools. You know, are they in the office? You know, it's a long time ago for me. I can't, I think of what school, I remember, the first day of school is terrifying. Now, oh boy, take a child into a school now and it's like, when I try to find a reason to keep them out of schools now. We got provincial rights. We got to deal with the federal government about, no, it's provincial rights. Again, I'm running into problems with what happened in Connecticut. We might have to come back tomorrow and try again. This is too difficult. Everybody's trying to come to grips. It's, now it's, real children that have to pay the price. It's unacceptable. Decisions get made, think locally, act globally. It's I don't know how we're going to deal with this tragedy. Tear a lot of people up. That's exactly how you end up crossing the line. It's, you find out what words mean. You can't put it into words. It just devastates you. 3 months I thought about what I was going to say to a little boy. It was like, my whole life, I was like, I got to do the grieving. Suicide. Not in that respect. Suicide. Because that's what he said. Broad is the road to destruction, and narrow is that line. Pleading guilty, speaking in court, and English. I can't go on right now.